My 27M partner insists he's the sole provider while I cover rent and bills, saying, "You only maintain the status quo." After 5 years, I'm confused. He shows love with gifts yet claims indifference. Should I fight for this messy relationship or let go? So as the title indicates, my relationship is coming to an end and my partner is being confusing about it. I am writing this down partially to organize my thoughts, but also to inquire whether this complicated situation is even worth fighting for. I feel that it is, but I am a passionate person who detests leaving things incomplete, so perhaps I am not being rational. I hope this does not violate the no yes no question rule, I just do not know how to phrase it better. There will be extensive context here, so I apologize in advance. I simply need perspective on this chaotic situation. Summary of context: I earn significantly less money than he does. Nonetheless, I cover most of our necessities, yet he still believes he is the primary provider. Summary of the whole situation: my boyfriend wants to end our relationship, citing financial problems, but I suspect he is actually afraid of commitment, and I am unsure if I should continue to try. Context: we met 5 years ago on Tinder, initially with the intention of just being friends with benefits. Approximately a year later, we began our relationship in earnest. Although he had one prior attempt when he needed time and space to think about whether this was what he truly wanted, this pattern would recur. He moved in after a serious conflict with his parents. During the first year, he was the only one working while I was studying full-time. He was studying part-time. After that year, we relocated to a better apartment, and I began working, also receiving assistance for rent from my uncle. I am among the fortunate few whose family supports them without any strings attached. In this case, the strings align with my own aspirations. I am a contemporary artist, and my family has a well-established tradition of careers in the arts. They take this seriously, and so do I. My uncle is willing to support me as long as I pursue my artistic career. They expect me to succeed. My partner is a programmer, and his family's values are different. I cannot ascertain how much of his issues with me arise from his father's outlook on life versus his own philosophy, but I do not believe these aspects can be entirely separated. He is mainly focused on finances and finding a work-life balance that allows him to work as little as possible while earning a substantial income. Currently, he earns 3 times what I do, including help from my family. Despite this, for the past 3 years, I have been the only one paying rent and covering most of our food expenses. He contributes to groceries and pays for any luxuries, primarily takeout. I have decided this is fair since I would have to pay rent regardless, so I might as well help him save money, as I would not be able to save much anyway. Financial problems. I mention this because finances have been a recurrent point of contention. He was significantly traumatized during that first year of being the sole breadwinner, which was extremely stressful for him, and I did not contribute regularly. It seems he is unable to forgive me for that year, as he repeatedly brings it up, despite the fact that he has not paid rent in over 3 years. He was also fully convinced, to the point of convincing me, that he was supporting us, even though I had been paying for our rent and food for 2 years at that point. He believed this due to the stress of his toxic workplace, which he was afraid to leave, and because he was overspending on takeout. I did not really count that money as I trusted him to budget it. After all, he is the math wizard. He has blamed me, and I believe he still does, for staying too long in that toxic job, as he was stressed about not contributing enough for us to survive. I was paying the entire rent and half of the food costs. The frustrating detail here is that he was not saving money for our survival in case he needed to quit his job without securing another one first. Instead, he was saving for his trip to Japan. We live in Europe, and the cheapest tickets alone cost more than our monthly rent. When the job became unbearable, he quit and I supported us, while his contributions from his savings were 1/8 compared to what I was providing. I was okay with this, despite feeling resentful that he was going to Japan without me while I was nearly entirely responsible for our survival. Now he has found a job that pays him nearly double what his previous one did, and he contributes about 1/3 of our monthly budget. There was one month in which he paid nearly as much as I do every month. I was defending my master's degree and needed money for prints of my photographs. He covered those expenses and I reimbursed him the following month. The rest of his contribution was necessary because I work as a teacher and September is my poorest month. However, I still covered the rent. I cannot recall how many times that September has been thrown back in my face as proof that he contributed as much as I did to our budget. The main arguments revolved around that September and the fact that he was overspending on the takeout budget. Takeout and other luxuries were the only expenses he paid for entirely, and I trusted him to be reasonable with that. I also expressed my willingness to cut back anytime, but he would assure me it was fine. It turns out he was not reasonable with that. I should have monitored his spending and limited myself to a budget I was unaware of and that he did not want to establish because, as he quoted, "I don't want to say no to you." How is one supposed to function in this situation? I feel resentful about this situation. Of course, I could have desired less, but each time he said it was okay, I simply wanted to trust him and relax, believing this was not my concern. Now this is the more comprehensible part of our problems. The issues of mental load, financial equity, these can be worked out gradually. The remainder of our problems can be categorized into financial issues I disagree with, overall emotional turmoil, financial issues I disagree with. I have outlined our financial situation to some extent. He earns 3 times what I do, including family support, yet he contributes less to our life so that he can save for a future home, trips, etc. I will highlight the issues. This is not to vent, but to illustrate the types of problems we are experiencing. He does not comprehend how much time and money he is saving by me paying for our rent and also maintaining the household. Each time we discuss his savings, they are exclusively referred to as his savings, not ours for his home, perhaps for gifts for me. I had to devote an entire evening calculating to prove that the laptop he bought me for Christmas was actually from my contributions to his savings. He cannot let go of the belief that he is the one bearing the weight of our finances. At his most charitable, he contributes 1/3 of our budget. He remains fixated on that first year. I realize it was extremely difficult for him, but I feel I have served my penance. I have been paying a higher share of rent for 3 years for goodness sake. He claims that if I earned more and worked longer hours, he would take on more chores, but I do not think he realizes how much time it takes to manage daily responsibilities, not just on selective weekends. I have agreed to take on more chores because I work fewer hours, but what is the logic in that argument? I pay more for our lives anyway. Why should me earning more and contributing the same make a different impact on his chore duties? He believes that his contributions to take out equate to my payment of rent. There are 2 points here. 1, even in the most extravagant months, his spending was still less than the rent, and 2, the level of responsibility is not equivalent. We could always resort to instant ramen or eggs on days when I am too busy, tired, or depressed to cook. We cannot skip paying the water bill. Financial concerns that make me feel insecure. There are 2 statements he makes that stop me in my tracks, and I am unsure whether they are true or not anymore. I have my counterarguments, but please evaluate them and provide an honest assessment as to whether I am being selfish, lazy, or unjust. The subreddit forbids moral judgments, and that is not what I am seeking. I need a reality check, and I hope to still have one. The statements are, I do not contribute to our future. Well, yes, in the current situation, I cannot save money and have no borrowing capacity. He says, and I quote, you only maintain the status quo, you do not try to improve it. I suppose this is accurate. We live in a place I can afford on my own. If we split the rent 50-50, we could reside in a much larger or better situated place. I could earn more money and am working on overcoming my anxieties about finding a new job. But it appears that he wants me to entirely support us while also providing better living conditions all on my own. It is my uncle who is supporting us, not me, which makes me unreliable. This one stings the most. I do not know if it is true or if my self-esteem is so low that it just hits home. He operates under the notion that family only provides assistance if there are strings attached and that one should always be 100% self-sufficient. If one is not, they risk facing a situation where their family cannot help them, leaving them unprepared. This perspective overlooks the possibility that something could happen to him too, leaving him in a similar predicament, and then he would be unprepared as well. I believe we should count our blessings that we have assistance. I am still responsible for food expenses, and I am pursuing my art, which is why my uncle supports us. It is not just to allow me to live comfortably, but to continue our family's artistic legacy. However, I suppose this does not matter. The funds arrive from me, and he doesn't need to worry about it. I have spoken with my friends and my father about this, seeking advice. Thus far, everyone is as perplexed as I am about why there is an issue. Clearly, we do not face any real financial difficulties. He earns so much money that in 2 years he could afford a down payment for a home, while most young people can only dream of being able to own their own place. Meanwhile, I cover our living expenses, and we have enough for food, small trips, takeout, and so on. He even traveled to Japan. I cannot find any justification in this, other than some deep resentment surrounding the fact that I am receiving help and working fewer hours while he endures a typical 9-to-5. Does this make sense? Am I missing something obvious? Am I genuinely being unreasonable and unjust by asking him to accept that I am supported specifically so I do not have to work many hours? Emotional turmoil. He seems to be seeking a way out of our relationship, and here comes a series of inconsistencies, some of them finally examined, though not financial in nature. For the past 4 years, he has repeatedly expressed his love for me and suggested that if we could skip the party, he might even marry me. He has done many loving things. One sees him primarily from a problematic standpoint, yet he has also been very warm and caring. Many of his expressions of affection manifest in material gifts, as it is the least effort he can exert, but last year he began to engage in more substantial gestures. He created a mini Dungeons and Dragons campaign for my birthday that concluded a narrative involving several characters I had played at his table. He takes this hobby very seriously and does not skimp on any detail. Moreover, he is an exceptional game master. It was a significant effort. Last Christmas, he purchased a camera that I had been slowly saving for. It was a relatively expensive item, not merely a dinner or train tickets for a weekend by the seaside. It is simply not something you would give to a friend. And yet he claims he does not know if he loves me. It appears he never really knew but chose not to confront this feeling before. Around the time he had that significant confrontation with his parents and moved into my residence. He performs actions that demonstrate love, but then voices statements that convey indifference, if not hostility. He has provided numerous reasons for ending our relationship, the most sensible being about our financial circumstances, which is why I provided such thorough context for this. However, it is not entirely sensible. Thus, I need outside opinions, unfettered by bias from my friends or therapist, to analyze and offer their perspective. He talks about building a future and supporting both of us, yet he completely disregards the emotional component of our relationship. He does not act as if he sees it that way, but speaks as though our partnership is merely a business to manage. The fact that I offer comfort and love seems to serve as nearly a hindrance. He literally stated that because I express my love for his body, he lacks motivation to exercise and lose weight. He does not believe that my happiness and fulfillment contribute positively to us. However, there are additional problems. During that fateful trip to Japan, he developed a crush on a girl traveling with him and his friends. This threw him into a full-blown crisis. He admitted this to me. I was saddened but not angry. We maintain an open relationship where a threesome is acceptable, yet I have repeatedly stated that I do not want us to have separate partners. I wish for us always to be together and do not mind having additional people accompany us. He did not wish to cease contact with her. It did not take long before he began pleading for a fully open relationship, even becoming angry when I refused. This situation only concluded when she informed him that she was not interested in such an arrangement. Note that he did not seek a threesome. He was not interested in broadening our relationship. He wanted a side relationship. This came after years of adhering to specific guidelines. Then there was an incident involving his father. Due to that and our circumstances, he moved back home. I do not want to delve into the specifics of that accident, but he really did not need to relocate back home. He claimed it was to support his family, yet he barely spoke to his mother for the first 2 months. His father is okay and healthy, by the way. Following that, the situation deteriorated. He became anxious and depressed, began taking a heavy dosage of antidepressants, and expressed that he did not even want to play Dungeons and Dragons or spend time with friends. He stated that being with me became a chore, and during this time, the justifications for ending our relationship began to surface. Apart from the financial issues, there were also comments like, "You are more radical politically. What if in 20 years I want to have children? Or what if I develop another crush and start questioning everything again?" Other pointless hypotheticals, as if these are matters that cannot be gradually addressed and resolved instead of waiting for another crisis. Well, perhaps with the children issue, that is a stretch, as they annoy him significantly. He started making many hurtful and unloving comments, intertwining them with legitimate grievances to intensify their sting. When I inquired about how he felt towards me, after hours of deflection, he stated he feels the same way he did before his trip to Japan. His crush has faded and he is fine now, but he still wants to end our relationship for reasons that crumble under scrutiny. He does not seem to be grieving for us. However, when we said our goodbyes before cutting contact for a month for my mental health, as this situation has taken a significant toll on me, he was in tears. Eyes do not comprehend. So he feels the same way he did when he said he loved me. Yet he is uncertain if he truly loves me. He wishes to break things off for reasons that are not genuinely problematic and or that can be easily resolved. He informed me that he struggles with forming relationships. Prior to me, he was involved in a deeply toxic situationship. The incident with the girl on the trip was also rushed and strange. Only our relationship began slowly and safely, although we had some unconventional circumstances as well. I perceive it as two possibilities. He has been dishonest with me for the past 4 years, using me as an escape from his home life, remaining out of habit. and then began acting erratically, making efforts, purchasing expensive gifts, all the while stating that he does not actually love me. He possesses an anxious avoidant attachment style and became cold at the thought of alternatives. My inquiry, I suppose, is, am I viewing this correctly? Is there anything beyond years of therapy that I can do to assist him with his attachment style? He is notably slow in self-analysis, and it takes him a painful amount of time to arrive at any genuine conclusions. Story 2. Stuck in a cycle of loneliness at 30, I realized, why am I asking Reddit instead of talking to him? My boyfriend is reliable but hardly explores my world. I need more music and depth, I confessed, feeling guilty for my stagnation. Can we bridge the gap, or is it time to let go? TLDR again, speak to your partner who knows you best instead of seeking advice from people on Reddit about how to live your life. You understand yourself best. I responded to some of the comments. I read through all of the "you are absolutely incompatible, leave him, and you do not like him," and realized that these statements are simply untrue, although my post may have given that impression. It is not that we do not communicate. I have always disliked phone calls, yet with him we sometimes talk for 6 hours without stopping. It is not that we do not enjoy ourselves. It is more that we are both struggling with depression and come from families that never exposed us to life outside of the house. I also recognize that I am asking people for opinions, and that is precisely the issue. I hardly ever connect with others because I often feel misunderstood. That is exactly what happened. As I was reading the comments, I realized something very important. I did not understand your perspective at all. I thought to myself, no, that is certainly not how I feel. That is definitely not how I would handle the situation. I felt deeply misunderstood. Then it all made sense. This is precisely why I am with my boyfriend. He understands me and I understand him. We are aware of each other's fears and problems, and will do everything we can to resolve any conflicts and address anything that makes us unhappy. I have lived for 30 years and have never met anyone more compatible. And God knows I have tried. Deep down, I know I may not be in the best place right now, but I am true to myself. Only I understand what I value and how important it is for me to spend time alone while also being together, but allowing each of us to do our own thing. He feels the same way. I think I often get swept up in thoughts like, oh my goodness, I want to party, or oh my goodness, I want to travel the world, but those feelings last for an hour and then I return to being my normal self. However, I tend to evaluate my entire life based on those fleeting moments. I can be myself with my boyfriend. I can do whatever I wish and he will always support me. It is just that I am uncertain how to open up because I panic internally. I would like to, I do not know, dance when he is around, but I am too shy. I have always been like this, open with people I am not close to and incredibly shy around my loved ones. Showing them my art, never my writing, just the thought of it makes me tremble. Singing, God forbid. I would love to do all of that and my loved ones would never judge me or laugh at me, but I am just terrified of revealing my true self. Even while watching a film with my family, when there is a sad moment, I hold back my tears and then joke to indicate, look at me, I do not get emotional. I simply must take care of my mental health, so that I can actually do things instead of merely imagining myself doing them. The reality is that I am not very happy in my relationship because I am not very happy in general. I feel stuck, depressed, and unable to accomplish anything. I need to address that. I am waiting for an appointment rather than cast blame. My boyfriend has always been there for me, even when I pushed him away out of fear. He has strong likes and dislikes but wants to work through them and acknowledges that they are problematic. I am not searching for someone to merely do activities with. The most important aspect of a relationship for me is that rare understanding, which I have only encountered once with my boyfriend. It does not matter whether we enjoy the same music or not. I would love it if we did, but there is this 80-20 rule or whatever they say. My boyfriend does not fulfill all of my needs, just as no one would. However, I would much rather be with someone I connect with and try to share my interests with than attempt to be with someone I share hobbies with, but do not understand on a deeper level. After feeling so terrible, distancing myself and spiraling, I called him to express my fears and how anxious everything made me feel. I explained how I had gone through the comments and realized I was asking random people to tell me what I should do instead of talking to the person involved. I told him that I needed more music and suggested that I create a playlist for him with a leaflet describing how each song makes me feel. It is like a project, and I love projects. That is how I can feel fulfilled, by sharing my world in a way that is comfortable for me. We also planned a weekend together and a trip next weekend. We have begun having deeper conversations, although he tends to avoid them as they often increase his anxiety. In fact, discussing deep topics makes me somewhat anxious as well. Even the music I love often triggers anxiety because I tap into that otherworldly high feeling that is addictive, yet I feel awful afterward. He provides me with more stability as he always tries to joke despite his anxiety. I tend to overthink and these thoughts spiral into obsessive rumination. It is probably how I wrote that post. I do sound miserable, bitter, and unstable. I am not like that all the time. I behave that way when I spiral, and unfortunately, many things trigger such states. I fear intimacy, I push people away, I tell my boyfriend I want to be alone on the weekends, and then I spiral because we do not meet often enough. My biggest problem is myself. I spiral, focus on my flaws, and engage in self-sabotage. Sometimes I am my own greatest enemy. I can only see the negative, and I start imagining a perfect life in my mind. However, I am the one who is responsible for how my life looks, not my boyfriend. I am the one who has been depressed and anxious for years without seeking help. I am the one who always wants to do things but never does. I am the one who desires effort while hardly ever putting any into actually taking action. It seems as though I would prefer someone to make me live fully, and that is my responsibility. I 30F need to discuss deep topics. I need to laugh and engage in playful banter. I need to listen to music together, try various activities, and explore a bit. While he 32M is autistic and diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, his entire life revolves around minimizing anxiety. I adore music and walking and dancing so much. He does not even know what music I listen to because he is not interested, and that is the end of that topic. If we wish to watch something together, it has to be a horror, slasher, or thriller without supernatural, ghost, or fantasy themes, because he dislikes them and will not watch those genres. Attempting to have discussions beyond everyday topics is challenging. I have tried to share my passions, music, and lyrics with him, but his only response when I attempt to open up about my world is, very well. No questions, no interest, no curiosity. Very well seems to be his response to everything. At the same time, we do communicate, we reminisce a lot, discuss our childhood stories, etc. He possesses that safe kindness that I have always sought. We have never gone anywhere together, not a single trip or even a road trip. We discussed trying urban exploration urbex, but that has never materialized. I am not typically a traveler, but the thought that if I wanted to go somewhere, I would likely have to do it alone because he does not require it feels disheartening. And I would love to travel, but I already do everything on my own. We live 60 kilometers apart. He has a car and there is a bus to his town, yet we only see each other every other week. Initially, we met every weekend from Friday evening until Monday morning, but now it feels as though he does not need me there. I feel as though I do not need to see him either. The mere thought of meeting him makes me uneasy. I have struggled with this for months now. We first met almost exactly a year ago and began dating in June. I thought it was relationship obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I still believe it plays a part, but I just feel hopeless. It is as if there is no energy or chemistry between us, no sparks, if you will. To be honest, I am not pursuing that. I have spent my entire life daydreaming about love and convinced myself that I am setting unreasonable standards. However, there must be more. I cannot accept the possibility of this being my life until I die. Each time I hear very well when I attempt to connect, something within me dies. It may also be his stimming. On the positive side, he is reliable, he is faithful, he is trustworthy. We share the same values and he is an alien just like I am, but I feel unfulfilled and trapped because he has never entered my world. I'm not perfect either. I experience depression frequently. I cry a lot. Overall, I am quite a lot to handle. However, I feel as though I am shrinking to make it easier for him to understand me. What I would like to share, I condense into one sentence so he can process it and respond with a single sentence as well. Additionally, I have always struggled with intimacy. I enjoy sex, cuddling, and all of that, but at the same time, it often paralyzes me. My boyfriend wants to hug or kiss me, and I cannot move. I cannot speak. I grew up in an autistic family, terrified of everything. My mother is a kind angel who never lived a life, my brother is autistic and rarely leaves the house, and my sister has borderline personality disorder as well. My father was probably autistic but passed away when I was 6. I thought I had found comfort with my boyfriend after a toxic relationship with my ex, but now I see I am repeating a pattern from home, doing nothing, never trying anything, never leaving the house. There is care, but there is also stagnation that is consuming me from within. It is not that he does not want to try, he has his limitations just as I have mine. We both grew up lonely and never learned how to engage with others. As it stands, I do not have any friends. I do not believe I even have the mental capacity to form friendships either. I do not know how to connect. I have always felt as though I am behind a wall. People seem so different from me that it almost frightens me. The only individuals I feel comfortable with in terms of familiarity are my mother and my boyfriend. I also spend most of my time alone and I am genuinely okay with being alone. It is my default state. My boyfriend is the same way, however I want more. Yes, I can do everything myself, but then what is the purpose of a relationship? Even if I were to engage in the most fulfilling activities with friends, what is the purpose of a relationship? I am very talkative, open, and quite charismatic at work. I am a teacher, but that does not translate well into my private life. At work, I am acting. I possess this teacher-me persona that is great with people. Sometimes I wish I could be like that all the time, but it requires so much energy and I simply do not have it. Furthermore, I identify as being on the asexual aromantic spectrum, and relationships in general are challenging for me. I have never comprehended the passion people talk about, or someone being attractive and so forth. The only factor for me is a face I find appealing, and my boyfriend is somewhat my type. I rarely like anyone. I simply do not feel attracted to people in general. My boyfriend maintains good personal hygiene and does not have facial hair. It may sound trivial, but I spent 29 years single because initially I had no interest, and then as an adult, most men have facial hair, which for me is a deal breaker. Perhaps it is an autistic trait as well. I do not know, but I have struggled to even build friendships with someone I do not find attractive in some way. It does not have to be about conventional beauty, but they must be my type or appear familiar. It is problematic, but I have felt this way since childhood. The only time I truly experienced love was with an extremely abusive and toxic ex who had borderline personality disorder, and he was exactly my type. We shared none of the same values or interests, and he did not allow me to do anything independently. But back then, I thought it was love. I do not know how to let go or if I should let go. Maybe I am subconsciously angry at my boyfriend for the fact that I cannot be who I want to be. There exists an imaginary version of me that I can never become, and this imaginary self desires to travel, go to different places, and try new experiences. The real me seems devoid of the life energy to pursue any of that. Perhaps I am engaging in self-sabotage by attempting to let go of the best person I have ever met. Or maybe I require someone with that life energy to push me into becoming the person I want to be. Perhaps I should just seek friends to share my passions with. I have no idea how. There might be a balance. I am a chronic overthinker preoccupied with hypothetical scenarios while he is emotionally stable and worries about practical matters. I constantly daydream while he is practical. Perhaps I want him to fulfill all my needs because I have no one else, and that is simply unrealistic. I do not know, I feel stuck. Please help me make sense of this. TLDR, I feel lonely and unfulfilled with my boyfriend but have always felt that way. I do not know if I am the problem or if he is not the right person for me. Story 3. My girlfriend of 7 years who I survived homelessness with suddenly acts like I'm a stranger. It's too much work and it isn't about you, she said when I craved affection. Now she texts her therapist but ignores my pain. Is she losing interest or is it trauma? We were homeless for that entire time when we did not engage in sexual activity. I understood the reasons, but now that we are back on our feet, I am perplexed as to why nothing has changed. It has been 6 months now. I am not an aggressive person regarding sex, but now that we are sober, is it not natural to desire the release of those original endorphins? For so long, I felt numb and indifferent, not caring about anything, even myself. We stuck together during a really challenging period, but there were a few painful situations she put me through that were not normal before and became the norm. Gradually, hand-holding, hugging, and spooning all ceased over time. I did not realize it until it became apparent, if that makes sense. She forgot my birthday 2 years into our homelessness and did not remember until 2 days later when I finally brought it up. I felt embarrassed to mention it, but I could not help myself and spoke up. She apologized, and I believe she genuinely forgot, given all the stress that comes with living on the streets. Yes, I understood that, but at the same time I did not. Fast forward, I panhandled, which I disliked immensely because I knew I could do so much better. I felt disgraced and embarrassed the whole 9 yards. I earned more money than she did and had both the patience and personality to talk with people. Therefore, she rarely did it. It was my responsibility. She took on the riskier tasks. I felt that we both contributed in our own ways, but my role significantly impacted my self-esteem. People are exceedingly mean and rude to the homeless and unfortunately violent, so you can imagine we were both miserable and depressed, merely surviving. One day she became angry with me for using the last of our supplies and left me alone for 3 entire days and nights. I genuinely thought she had more. She had previously left me for 12 hours and I was unwell. Whatever I was holding for us I had to use. It was only one supply. I apologized, was preparing to panhandle and could have had the money in an hour or less. That was not sufficient. She left me. I assumed she would return. She would never leave me alone on these streets of Philadelphia. I was gravely mistaken. I tried to find her and succeeded. She ran away from me literally. I discovered she was staying with her friend at her house, taking showers, having fun, spending money, eating, and posting cute selfies on Facebook, living carefree and happy, while I felt so lost and heartbroken, sleeping alone, unable to mentally cope because I missed her immensely. I found her again on the second day and she promised to meet me at a specific time, but that time came and went without her. On the fourth day, she showed up where her friend, BM50, stayed under a bridge. I was alone and he offered me company, so I was there when she arrived. I do not know if she came to where we previously stayed before seeing him, but I do not believe her. She did not even hug me, apologize, or acknowledge me. She simply laid down beside me. It was cold, so sharing body heat was essential. I was grateful she returned, but everything was swept under the rug. She admitted she overreacted, and that was it. Fast forward again, I began to feel like a servant. If we were broken, I was sick, it did not matter. I had to get up and panhandle on the street before she would ever do it. I mean, I was suffering from a fever, cold sweats, and vomiting. She showed no empathy towards me. I continued to provide for us while she ran around, and I trusted her completely. I knew she would not betray me, but I was always scared she would leave me again. She protected me one night when a man punched me in the face and throat. She knocked him out cold. She had warrants, so she went to jail. I was fortunate to have a fake name because I had the same warrants as her. I could not live without her after she left for 3 days. I was sure I could not handle a stint in jail. 4 days later, I went to rehab. A month later, she was out and in rehab with me. She left after 3 days, and I followed her when I realized it. The positive aspect was that we stayed on medication-assisted treatment. We engaged in other detrimental activities, but one major problem was off our backs. Our lives and minds gradually began to change. I could no longer enjoy the high from cocaine, and my motivation to panhandle disappeared. She was my main reason for compliance, but I started to think about us and how messed up our situation was. I wanted to reclaim my life, and I wanted us back. We finally moved into a recovery house and then into a private room. After 6 months of living normally, nothing has changed with her. I am not obsessed with sex, but I do want to feel loved and desired. If she would at least be cuddly or comforting at times, that would be sufficient. She is not the clingy type of girlfriend, and that is acceptable. The only issue is that from the outside looking in, we appear to be just good friends. At least, that is my perception. She is absolutely stunningly beautiful, and everyone stops to admire her. She is unaware of her beauty, and that quality makes her even more attractive. She has had past trauma, which could explain her lack of physical intimacy. I only know and remember that it was she who pursued me initially and that she had no issues making her moves. This leads me to question whether this is the reason for her current behavior. I am making excuses for her. I have always done so because I am embarrassed to admit that this beautiful girlfriend of mine and I have not had any sexual encounters in almost 7 years. I would never dare admit that to anyone in person because it reflects poorly on me. If she were genuinely into me, wanted me, and was still attracted to me, then why will she not initiate any form of physical affection? I have asked her, hinted at it, been patient, and inquired about how I can assist with this situation. Essentially, I am told that everything is fine and that she loves me. That is all. She does not elaborate, and I am left feeling as though I did not receive an answer at all. As a few weeks pass and nothing changes, I grow bitter and resentful. I am miserable, and I regret to admit that I want to make her miserable too. I do not want to feel that way towards her or anyone. I just do not know how to address this. I cannot bear the thought of life without her because that feeling terrifies me. Yes, I am very codependent. I know it's sad, and I despise feeling sorry for myself, but it is what it is. On top of everything else, I happen to check my browsing history because we usually share Google accounts. I discovered searches for pornography, and yes, I was shocked. Mainly because she now acts demure when it comes to discussions about sex between us. I tried explaining to her that it is okay to watch pornography. I have those feelings too now that we have been clean. I attempted to convey that it is normal, and if she feels the need to watch pornography, why would she not mention it to me? Now I understand that it does not always have to involve me. Alone time happens, and that is acceptable. However, when we have not had sex for 6.5 years and I have been asking her why we haven't and when it will happen, then that is a significant problem for me. I want to feel good too, and I would love to make her feel good as well if possible. I just felt disrespected. I felt emotionally betrayed, which is sad. I brought it up and she exploded, claiming it was my fault for our argument. I asked her why she could not just express her feelings or make any moves towards me to signal her interest. She replied, "It's too much work and this isn't about you." Can I express how much that hurt? I was stunned for a few seconds. I never thought she viewed our sexual relationship as work. For her to assert that it was not about me, well, that is disheartening because it should have been. She perceived that as a valid reason. No, it was undoubtedly hurtful that I was not a thought that occurred to her while looking at pornography, even for a brief moment. Please tell me if I am being too clingy. She calls me crazy, insisting that everything is fine. Fine, fine. But if everything is so fine, then why has she not even attempted to hold my hand after 2 months? Let me backtrack and say that I began to notice that every time I touched her leg, shoulder, or any part of her body, she reacted as if I had scabies or as if I were a stranger doing so. She would jump as if frightened, you know. This is where I thought past trauma might be the cause. Over time, it worsened to the point that even if she saw me approaching her and I touched her leg, she would still react the same way. I do not understand how she could say I scare her when she sees me clearly. I started to notice that when I would lightly bump her, I would refrain from touching her altogether because it hurt my feelings deeply. I felt rejected each time that happened, and even going to sleep, I tiptoed around as if walking on glass to avoid touching her in any way. She never noticed or missed my touches, cuddling at night, or just being close to her to feel her skin. That troubled me as well. I became very aware of how she responded to anything I did or said. She never reciprocated. Anyway, back to me bringing up the pornography. She would become embarrassed and say things like, "Come on, stop talking to me right now. Do not try to play me like I am some kind of sex freak," or she would say, "SHHH, stop, be quiet. Someone is probably going to hear you," and I had to cease speaking on the subject. I received no answer and eventually the conversation would repeat itself. I am literally expressing to her that I want to engage in the activities we used to enjoy before the drugs, which include having sex, going out, or doing things that can improve our future together. She gives me one-word answers to questions that warrant at least a paragraph or two. It is unfair that I am constantly trying to figure out how to make this better. How can we achieve a healthy sexual and loving relationship together? I feel like the only one genuinely trying and wanting us to succeed. My future has her there by my side, yet I am uncertain if that is how hers looks. This is taking a significant toll on my self-esteem and I am obsessing over this. If she were at least trying to show that she is still interested in me or even a little attracted to me, I would not feel the need to pressure her. Why do I even feel like I am pressuring her? That is what she says, that I am annoying and should be quiet. I have literally cried my eyes out to her, expressing my love. Her response was, "Shut the F up, I do not want to hear any more of that I love you nonsense." I do not even receive an apology for how rude she is when this occurs. I am always crying and about once a week I bring it up. It is a cycle and it is incredibly unhealthy. In another situation, she has been using my mother's phone for about 2 months. She also has a laptop that she uses. In the past, we always shared the same Google accounts. It was her decision, not mine, but she created a separate account for her laptop, which she uses exclusively, and I do not care. The phone belongs to my mother, so it is another separate Google account. I finally wanted to check my mother's phone because something prompted me to do so. I should also mention that we attend therapy but have different therapists. She never stayed long to talk to them until she met this one lady. This therapist is cool, pretty, and competent. I never felt threatened, I never had to. I noticed she stayed in her sessions for a full hour instead of 5 minutes, which made me happy because she finally found someone she felt comfortable with. She also began to dress nicely and wear makeup. I figured she wanted to feel better about herself. Well, I spoke to my therapist about my relationship and was surprised when she asked if I wanted to have our sessions together. It confused me, I did not understand why. It seemed that my therapist knew something I did not. I broke down and explained everything that had been happening. I also declined because I feared my girlfriend would freak out and blame me for this. I felt scared and embarrassed. I asked why my therapist would bring it up and what she was saying, if anything. I did not want to think of myself as special enough to be a topic in my girlfriend's sessions. I mean that sincerely. My therapist confirmed my fears by informing me she never talks about me to them. Funny, huh? So I began to observe their interactions. My girlfriend forgets that I know her well. I can tell when she has a crush. She had to be interrupted to leave for a scheduled test we had. She was the one who urged me to hurry up that day. I was done in 5 minutes while still waiting for her. My therapist had to knock on their door for her to come out. We ended up late and she claimed she had told the therapist she needed to leave twice but then felt bad about saying it again. Why would she feel bad about this? Then I checked my mother's phone and saw a number saved without a name in the Text Now app. She had been texting her therapist for 2 months. Her justification was that the therapist suggested it because she was not comfortable discussing her past trauma in person. Okay, that is fine, but not fine. I was never informed about this, even though we typically talk about everything. I have my own issues, and the only reason we text is for scheduling or court appearances. It is strictly professional. As far as I can tell, the therapist's side is entirely professional, but why is my girlfriend asking her about her weekend? She has not asked me about my weekend in years. She claimed that the reason the number is not saved is because it is not her phone, but she has saved another friend's number. The texts were also deleted, I could tell. The therapist does not text after office hours, so it appears professional, but what could be so critical that cannot wait until their in-person appointment? I expressed my discomfort with this. My girlfriend seemed more concerned about the therapist losing her job than how I felt. She refused to consider attending therapy again, merely dismissing the idea altogether. To me, that does not look like nothing is going on. I need answers, but she will not provide any. No pun intended. Story 4. Last night, my 22M friend pressured me into a strip club despite my protests. "Just let me pay for the full experience," he said, making me feel trapped. I felt so out of place, so wrong. The aftermath, all I can do is cry in bed, questioning everything. Did he cross a line? My friend, 22 years old male, and I, 20 years old female non-binary, but I feel it is somewhat relevant to mention that I am assigned female at birth, went out last night. It was just the two of us because all of our other university friends have gone home for the holidays. It was an unexpected outing that began with him cooking at my house while we drank a few beers and ciders. Afterward, we went to a pub for a few more drinks and then decided to explore a club. After leaving that club, my friend expressed a desire to go to a casino. I do not gamble, but I was drunk and did not want to go home, so I agreed to accompany him to watch and to remind him to leave if he exceeded his limit. It was my first time in a casino. My friend entered casino into Google Maps and the closest one was 30 minutes away, so we started walking. This walk took us into an unfamiliar part of the city and I had no idea where I was. It was also quite an indirect route. full of obstacles, dodging construction sites, and taking small back roads to reach our destination. After we left the casino, my friend mentioned during our walk that we would take an Uber back and split the costs. Therefore, I assumed that was our plan. He joked about how his nights out with his old friends during his apprenticeship in another city often ended with a trip to the casino and then to the strip club next door. I jokingly remarked, "Oh no, no strip club next door, whatever will we do?" I have never been interested in strip clubs. They have never appealed to me as an idea, even though I am attracted to women. I did not see the concept as something that would engage me, as I only feel attracted to people once I am quite close to them, so I assumed I would get nothing out of an experience like that. Moreover, regardless of what others may think, for me personally, strip clubs contradict my morals, as I consider myself quite feminist and find them very objectifying and distressing. I do not wish to debate this in the comments. That is simply my perspective, and I am sharing it to explain why I would never want to go to a strip club. However, my friend entered strip club into Google Maps, and the nearest one was also 30 minutes away, but it directed us back to the town center. I started mentioning how it was pouring rain, how a 30-minute walk was daunting, how I could not afford to pay for entry, and how I would start sobering up on the way and wouldn't want to be in a place like that sober. I explained that I had work on Saturday and needed decent sleep to prepare for it. He offered to pay for my entry and drinks. I felt uncertain about what to do. I was quite drunk in that unfamiliar area and agreed to at least walk there, because then I'd be in the town center instead of walking back on my own at 2 a.m. from a part of the city I did not recognize, especially as an assigned female at birth person. This situation would be difficult for anyone, but my status as assigned female at birth, coupled with the numerous stories of women being assaulted or harmed in my area while doing similar things lately, made it significantly scarier. I could not afford the cost of an Uber for myself without him splitting it. During the walk, he described what the club would be like, mentioning that girls will come up to you offering dances, but no matter how attractive they are, you must say no. I joked that I did not think that would be a problem for me and mentioned that I am not typically attracted to the kinds of girls who usually work in strip clubs, referring to very feminine women who are just not my type. I made it clear that I did not want to dance even if we ended up going inside. Once we arrived in the center, he quickly went to find out the entry fee, which was 5. He immediately offered to pay for both of us. I did not want it to seem like I was solely blaming him for something I regretted. I should have simply said no. If I had been sober, I would have stood up for myself much more effectively and suggested that he let me walk him home since his bag was at my place anyway. We ended up upstairs and he bought me another drink. A girl pole danced and I felt uncomfortable again. I am not a prude, it just goes against everything I believe to be in that environment. I felt like a pervert, and seeing how people around me reacted made it worse. The most I could say about it was, she is very attractive. How can she perform in those heels? Beyond that, I had an overwhelming sense of anxiety and did not want to be there. I thought I would just endure it until my friend decided to leave, ensuring he wouldn't waste his money, and then I would go home and feel bad about it afterward. After she finished her dance, girls approached us individually, speaking to one of us or both, with each of them offering private dances. I declined all offers. Eventually, the girl who had danced earlier approached us again. This time, as my friend was not conversing with anyone, when she offered me a dance for 40, I thought, oh, this is an easy way out, I do not have 40. I expressed that I did not have that amount to spend, stating that 40 is a lot of money, etc. But then my friend chimed in, saying he would pay with his winnings from the casino. He had 120. Now there was this girl staring at me, with my friend indicating that he would cover the cost for me. I insisted that I could not accept 40 from him, considering he had already bought me so many drinks that night and paid for my entry to be there. He insisted that if he was taking me to a strip club, he wanted me to have the full experience. I know this may sound silly, but I felt trapped. I eventually gave in. The dance was what it was. Again, I don't think I experienced what most people typically gain from it. The dance itself did not make me uncomfortable, as it was not my first time seeing a naked woman, etc. However, I felt incredibly strange and wrong. I felt entirely paralyzed. After the dance concluded, I went outside to find my friend in the smoking area. He asked how it went, and I made a joke about it by exclaiming, "Oh my gosh, breasts." He inquired if I had seen full nudity. I replied affirmatively, and he seemed shocked, saying that 40 usually does not get you that. That particular comment twisted my stomach a bit. I do not know, I just stood there, vaping, feeling somewhat stunned and empty, longing to go home. Fortunately, we did leave shortly thereafter. We grabbed Taco Bell from the location across from the club and walked back to my place, which was a 15-minute walk. He picked up his bag and sat down for a while before calling an Uber to his place, while I changed out of my soaked hoodie, pants, socks, and shoes from walking in the rain, and then collapsed in my shirt. Today, I shared this experience with 2 of our other friends, and they both expressed that it felt strange to them. My friend is nearly 23, whereas I just turned 20. However, he has held full-time jobs for years, lived away from home, frequented strip clubs, and often shares that he once did cocaine off of a stripper. They stated that he has significantly more life experience than I do and should not have pressured me to go. Our friends believe he was really wrong for what he did, that he should have accepted my hesitations as valid reasons to return home, and that when I mentioned not having money and my unwillingness to accept his financial help, he should have taken that as a clear no, making this entire situation inappropriate. One of them even suggested it was akin to assault, but I am not sure I concur with that notion. I don't know, I just feel incredibly strange and unsettled. I have been unable to leave my bed, merely lying there crying and listening to The Cure on repeat. I have essays to complete, laundry to do, I need to shower, I am thirsty, yet I cannot find the motivation to move. I am unsure if I have the right to feel violated by all of this, but I do.